My name is Marie Cochran, and this is my first official time at the Southern Highland Crafts Guild. I know where I am, I'm just tired. I bring you greetings from North Georgia, from Toccoa, Georgia, and I'll talk about that briefly. But part of what I'm gonna do is tell you that yes, I had a mechanical failure, and this is not a PowerPoint, and this is just me doing a workaround so that I have things to read from the screen, and I have a button to push so that you can watch me talking about my work on video. So I'm cheating. But it's a presentation about community. Crafting community is very important to me. I think throughout the entire 2 days we've been talking about making things with our hands, but that's also creating culture. And when we create culture, we are creating community. So that's the quick version of what I'm talking about in terms of championing diverse, intergenerational, and interdisciplinary exchange. I turned 63 in November. I'm a first-generation college student. I became a college professor. I did not abuse my students. I did not abuse my students because I believe in equity. I don't believe in critiques where you tear people down and then put them back together. So I'm really glad that we had those very frank and open discussions, because art is the antidote in these times. So that's the best way I can sum up my talk, but let's get to going. What is your definition of community? What would anybody like to offer? Okay, people that you eat with. I did not set this up, but I'm moving into something related to foodways in just one moment. But what other ways do we create community? Common interest. Showing up for one another, a sense of place, all those things. It's not just your address, because you may not know the people who live next to you. You may not necessarily have kinship with the people that you're blood kin with, but somehow you create a sense of community. So I went on down here and I said, yes, it's a space of shared experience and or interest. So where I'm from, I'm gonna start by reading from a special issue from Callaloo magazine called Black Appalachia, Creative and Personal Perspective. So, because I gotta do this. And yes, I'm on that map. I was born in Toccoa, Stevens County, Georgia. Even these place names express the dissonance I feel about my geographic roots. Toccoa is a word of Cherokee origin. Almost every local Chamber of Commerce brochure claims that translated into English, it means the beautiful, though it was probably derived from Taguaje, meaning Catawba Place. My high school mascot is still the Indians, boldly and inaccurately adorned in Plains Indian headgear. There was hardly any mention in our history classes of the Trail of Tears that removed indigenous people from this area of Northeast Georgia. Nothing about the reasons why, and no thoughtful contemporary attempt to connect with the culture we claim to honor on the athletic field. The county is named after Alexander H. Stevens, Vice President of the Confederacy during the Civil War. He is commemorated with a bronze plaque on the grounds of the county courthouse. This official marker does not refer to his infamous Cornerstone Address, delivered in Savannah, Georgia in March 1861. There he stated the logic behind the Confederacy's creation, and I quote, "Its foundations are laid, its cornerstone rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is his natural and normal condition," end quote. So, dissonance. There was no place in Stephen's vision for me, but the Confederacy did not prevail. I'm a black female who was a first-generation college student. My parents spent their teens being the help and then labored in textile mills as adults, specifically Coates and Clark. Sewing notions, as many of you may know. I am the grandchild of sharecroppers and the great-grand of enslaved people. As an heir of the civil rights movement, I claim the freedom to become an artist, curator, and educator. And I also embraced the role of cultural pollinator and mentor to many. I've earned 2 degrees, and much of my work connects colleges to grassroots communities. I am a black Southerner, and my experience, though it defies the stereotype, is assuredly Appalachian. And I could go on about Ida Cox and how James Brown became James Brown in my hometown, but I could tell you about that later. What does a better job of it is a video. Well, first of all, let me just do this real quick. So for me, also community is interdependency, because we talked about foodways as an example, because you got to eat to live, right? And I had to do this shout out because this is also part of the reason why I don't have my laptop, because I forgot the most important thing, trying to bring the books and drive 2 hours from Georgia, because I had to attend the annual Polk Salad Festival. And here are some images from it. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to squish this in to be able to see it. It's not working like it's supposed to. Let's see what we can do with view. Okay. You know what? I can probably do a % if I can find it, and I'll do that, and that will be it. See, there's all these ways of figuring out how to do things when you don't have to be able to describe it in words. Okay, let's do 50. Oh, that's not pretty, but it'll work. Okay, I don't have that grand presentation style, but this just happened yesterday in Toccoa. Everybody knows what poke salad looks like, and it's really nice to see black hands harvesting it, because the oldest, most famous festival is in Harlan, Kentucky. It happens in June. It's their 75th coming up, but this is the 35th annual for this black family, the Golstons. That's some of what I ate yesterday. And this is the patriarch of the family, Larry Golston, in the beginnings of what will be the first Black History Museum in Toccoa, Stevens County, in a home that they own in the historic black community. And this is family members. I'm going to get this a little bit bigger so that you can see. But his son and daughter are continuing the tradition, because Mr. Golston died 2 years ago. But you see on your far left, daughter-in-law, his son Seth, and Seth's sons Liam, and in the bright green shirt, oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name, I'll think of it later, a picture of the patriarch, his widow, Deborah, daughter, her son, and a friend of the family. And it's interesting when we think about the way that we consider Appalachia, and Seth, born and raised in Toccoa, he's a Morehouse man. So you think about those connections between rural and urban, and he's teaching his children how to skin a deer, start a fire, chop wood, all the things. And this is the 35th annual event. So we have interdependency, but we also have self-determination. So that is what fast forwards me to this notion of new words and new terms and definitions. How many people have heard the term Affrilachian before? Okay, good, all right. So it all began, this movement, as many of us are beginning to embrace it, in the late 80s. I mean, there were probably conversations about the identity of black people in Appalachia going back even before Carter G. Woodson, somebody I'll talk about, who's the architect of Black History week that became Negro History Week that became month, but it begins in print with this book, Black in Appalachia by Dr. William Turner and Ed Cobble in the 1980s. And what it did is it put these two words together in print, but then out of that came a lot of different activity, because I'll talk about Affrilachian in just a moment. But when I found out that my presentation had fallen apart in the way that I planned it, my mind went someplace else, and it's in a good way, because this talk, as abbreviated as it is dedicated to Sammy Lewis Nicely, who on Thursday, we honored the 10th anniversary of his passing. How many people know Sammy? So, I'm just going to tell you that I'm not going to even be able to do anything that can approximate a summary of his career other than saying that he was community. Because at the same time that this book was being published, he was doing a whole series of events at the Rose Center in Morristown, Tennessee, called From Africa to Appalachia. So he precedes each of these things. And one day, I'm going to do something significant about his work, because I met him in Atlanta, Georgia, at an event that was related to an arts event celebrating National Black Arts Festival. And his drawl and asking me where I was from was really the first organic connection for what would become a now soon to be 15-year-old journey. Now, I've been teaching for about 30 years, but it wasn't until I met him and all these things collided that my work really began. So during the clip that you're going to see, where it gives you a big overview of Affrilachian, you will see his face appear. And I couldn't do anything else in this building if I didn't do that. So here we go. Is the sound going to come? Oh, no sound.
We might have to put the sound through the mic.
Okay. Okay. Oh, what am I doing now?
It's going to play an ad.
Okay.
It should. Let's skip the.
Okay. Let's skip the ad.
Yeah. Thank you for bearing with us. Okay.
I'm gonna hit pause. Tell me what I need to do.
Okay. So I think if we play it through the computer, do you want me to hold the mic?
I can do that. You want me to do it? I can do it.
I think. Yeah. I think if we play it through the computer, just like what Kelly did.
All right.
So
I'm doing what Kelly did.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah.
Come on. Why is it doing the timer? That's really weird.
I don't
Where did
know.
that come from?
I don't know.
I don't need 30 minutes.
No.
Why is it doing that?
Can
Okay.
we go back to
Can
the
I go back?
presentation? Yeah.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Okay. Oh, there's a whole bunch of
Gosh.
stuff there.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it there?
Chrome?
Yeah, I
Let's-
think it's
let's
Chrome.
see, hopefully.
It's going to happen. Nope.
Oh no.
That's all right. We're going to go history.
Oh gosh.
There it is. You know what? I'll just talk off of this.
There we go.
We're all here because of the fact that we are undervalued, you know, as artists, and we're always looked up. We're secondary.
We were told that we would best.
This is not the
sit
movie
down
Sinners.
to become pipe fitters or something more
Y'all didn't
practical.
get it.
And this was one.
I'll explain later.
It was a white professor that told us that.
She said, honey, colored people can't be artists.
Just having that kind of support within the family unit made it so that when I experienced opposition from outside, I already had the armor I needed to deflect that.
In the 5th grade in Miss Trophy's class, when we had to stand up and say what we wanted to be when we grew up, I took that challenge and I stood up and said I wanted to be an artist when I grow up. So all the kids at recess, I told them I couldn't play with them anymore because I could only play with people who believe in me.
I've always been a creative person, but never really had a chance to really express myself. Something like being there, you know, people really don't have that big of an appreciation for artists.
My name is Marie Cochran, and I was born and raised in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. I am an Affrilachian artist. 20 years ago, a group of writers, black writers from Kentucky, coined the term Affrilachian. 2 years ago at a gathering, it occurred to me that musical groups like the Carolina Chocolate Drops had embraced the term. There was a word, there was a song, but where were the visual artists? Frank X. Walker, a founding member of the Affrilachian Poets, extended his hand across the table and he said, "You invite them." And that was when my journey began. 2 years later, I've curated an exhibition of Affrilachian artists at the August Wilson Center in Pittsburgh. The name of the show is Common Ground, Affrilachian, where I'm from. This particular exhibition brings together 31 artists of various ages working in a variety of media. Affrilachian identifies the African presence in these mountains. For too long, the contribution of African Americans to American culture has been neglected. Until recently, our contribution to Appalachian culture has been denied. For instance, how many folks know that the banjo, which is so integral to Appalachian music, has African roots? The Affrilachian Visual Artist Project was created to showcase the artwork. The exhibition represents the completion of the first phase. In the next phase, I feel a sense of urgency. Many of the artists are over the age of 60.
Oh, my name is Mayota Hill.
Green Davis, Willis Green Davis.
Newman Jackson.
Looking at Rainey.
I am Elizabeth Ash Douglas.
I'm Errol Butchie Mobutu Reynolds.
Charlotte Ka.
It's Joanne Bates. Valeria Watson Deuce.
My name is Sammy Lewis Nicely.
How do you feel about being a part of this exhibition with all of us here?
Honored because they're pioneers. We felt so isolated at the time. We didn't know of Bean Davis. We didn't know people were, especially African American artists. I always saw Mr. Davis at a conference in Texas. And I thought, wow, we're not the only ones. There's somebody out there in the world that's living, thriving as an artist.
They are the pioneers who have overcome racial prejudice and other barriers. It's time to give these artists the recognition that they so richly deserve.
And it makes us feel like, wow, there's somebody out there that we can look up to, and pretty soon we're gonna have to pass that baton on to someone else. I didn't make it by myself. I had other people that supported us along the way.
I need your support to take this next step so that I, along with my team, can travel to the places where these artists live and work to capture their life story. This will begin the process of creating an archive of Affrilachian artists. Do you agree that African American cultural traditions or contributions are undervalued? Are you surprised to learn about the rich literary, musical, and visual arts traditions in Appalachia? If you answer yes to any of these questions, then you owe it to yourself to make a pledge. I thank you on behalf of all the future generations of Affrilachian artists. I'm giving you a look behind the veil because I can tell you that this was a Kickstarter campaign, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what happened. But yes, I did get permission to use this music, and I do know the Carolina Chocolate Drops, so talk about that a little bit too.
Art, to me, is creating a vehicle in which you can ride in. And that's what I think we're trying to do right here, is to create a vehicle in which we can all ride.
Okay, so let's see if we can get back to that document. While she's doing that, like I said, I'm bringing you behind the veil. So, the documentary did not get made. It's also unfinished business that I have left to do, but it launched me into being able to have people reach out, and I continued, oh great, to curate exhibitions with many of those artists. And it also allows me the opportunity to go back for a moment and talk about community and resilience with that little taste of poke salad. A weed that can make you extremely sick, or as the legend goes, kill you. So people talk about pawpaws, they talk about ramps. You're not going to get poke salad at a restaurant because it continues to be one of those food items from Appalachia that people have mixed feelings about because it was a subsistence food. It's a food that people had to forage. People of African descent, people indigenous on these lands, so that in order for poor people to eat, they had to teach each other how to work through the toxins in the land to get nourishment from the land. That's what we're doing with our art very often. That's what we're doing in our everyday lives. And even with the creation of the word Affrilachian, you have Black folks getting the best that they can out of a place that they've called home. I love those heads bobbing because I feel like a Baptist minister who's getting an amen, even though you're not talking to me that way. Amen. There you go. So art in the service of history and community. Beauty is in the service of community. If we were looking at those chairs, utilitarian objects are in the service of community. But also, there are messages that can come through the art. So I decided to, like I said, putting the fragments back together, give you a featured artwork from that original exhibition that I curated back in 2011 in Pittsburgh. This is not the actual artwork because they did a couple of pieces in the John Henry series, but when I mentioned Sinners, there's twins in that movie. That's why I brought that up, ha ha, hardy har. So Kelly and Kyle Phelps, who you saw, created this incredible work, and it gets you in the mood of thinking about the making of things, and since I don't have those images that I curated so carefully, we'll watch me talking about their incredible work on John Henry, which is at the Asheville Art Museum, the permanent collection. This mixed media sculpture by Kyle and Kelly Phelps is one of the works that I think is best representative of Affrilachian art. There's so many symbols involved in the work. So if someone doesn't know that this is John Henry, they know that this is a Black man that's a laborer. They can see it not only by, the sheen of sweat on his arms, but the tear in his pants, the weariness on his face, the shrug of his shoulders. And you would ask yourself, what time is this placed in? But workers work in all kinds of ways. So it becomes, a tribute to workers in general, in a more subtle way, but a way that really stands out to me. There is the red, white, and blue, which alludes to the American flag. The spikes themselves have almost like a religious significance in terms of thinking about the spikes in the hands of a Jesus Christ, and you think about the sacrifice of workers. One of the things I also like about this piece is that although Kyle and Kelly were not born and raised in the region, I believe they're from Indiana, they went to the University of Kentucky in Lexington. And that had a profound effect on them in their ability to engage with issues about Black history. A signature part of their work is that they do pieces that are about the work experience. So you see, objects that involve the actual process, whether it be,
working in the mines, working in steel, working in wood, whatever it may be, even domestic workers. But this one is an iconic portrait of John Henry. It's this wonderful tribute to this idea of the workers' experience and oftentimes the rural experience of Black people in the region.
Okay. All right, I don't know what I'm doing. But like I said, you know, the other message I wanted to get across, because I think we're all in agreement here, is some people are, you know, 10 generations back in the region. You know, I don't remember how many generations number-wise, but I've got deep roots in the region. But people can also be coming to the region and embrace it as their own. So that's why I curated their work into the show, and they very much feel like they're a part of the show about this movement called Affrilachian. And also for those of you who probably are familiar with their work, they work on the pieces together. And they say this thing like some twins say, that they're one person in two bodies. They literally sign their pieces together and work in that way, which is an incredible thing when you think about the creative process. The other thing that I wanted to bring forward today is of the 8 or so exhibitions that I've curated related specifically to the region. One of the ones that I'm most proud of is Jagged Path. It's called, the full title is The African Diaspora in Western North Carolina in Craft, Music, and Dance. I decided to do all of my behind the scenes cautionary tales today because this exhibition happened during COVID. It ran for 6 months. It had music, dance. We had a MacArthur Fellow. We had, you know, all these different people involved, 3 different curators. And I think I'll just go do that real quick so that you can see a little bit. And the problem was that staff and the rush that was involved in creating this very elaborate show had some plagiarism go on. And so the books got pulled. So only the curators and the participating artists have a copy of this. So I'm just putting myself out there. Another unfinished project is to get funding to reprint this incredible book. Just so you can have a sense of what it is, I guess I can do it this way. I can do it, thank you. It's all those things that I think are important when we talk about the ways that we can maximize, take our efforts and do the most that we can in this time of what seems to be scarcity, where funding is being cut. It sounds like I'm actually talking in opposite motion of what I'm trying to say, but that we try our best to do interdisciplinary projects. Because when it comes to the arts, I know that in my traveling this path, where I never saw a hierarchy between so-called fine arts and crafts, that's such a dead discussion, but that very often we want the beauty and the skill and the artistry to be seen, but it needs to be an environment where music is being played and dancing is being done, and there's other ways to have the work shown, and not always immediately thinking about how it can be put in cases and on the wall. You might disagree with me, but I really believe this. And I also believe that even as the way, when we go forward with engaging with the public, that we have a wide variety of disciplines as much as we possibly can. so that people can engage with the work and see that it's part of their everyday life. Let me just go real quick. I'm getting lost myself, so please just bear with me. I'm trying to get back to my viewing point.
To your presentation.
Yeah, I just
scroll
needed
down
the.
a little bit, then
Oh
right
yeah,
here.
I can just do that, right?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, all right. So what I'm going to do is click this. I think I've got this right. Oh, yeah. So as I told you, there was craft, music, and dance. These were the artists that I curated into the exhibition. Some of you may recognize some of these. I was going to show a clip of Nathan Favors and Mary Lou, and I can never remember how to pronounce her name, but a couple, wood turners, they're members of the Highlander Craft Guild.
Isn't that two of their bowls?
Oh, thank you very much. There you go, because I was looking at those saying, I better not, because I'm not an expert, but those are two of their bowls. And maybe I will show you in just a minute, but she is Black and Dutch. They live Bakersville? Yeah. They live in Bakersville. And then we have Lakeisha Blunt, who's from Murphy, Texana community. I can't name everybody's city, but we saw Jim McDowell earlier, who was in the exhibition. I got a couple of Asheville artists, Jenny Pickens and Valeria Watson, excuse me, just Valeria Watson now, Viola Spells, and others. So I'm going to do this real quickly because I think it's important. I might just turn the sound down and read because I want you to see their incredible home, for those of you who may not be familiar with their work. No, I'm just going to play this out. Because I almost died when I went to pick up the work from their home.
And studio. We are in the living room right now where he has many of his beautiful creations on display. Some of the pieces, like the apples you see here, are dyed. He gave them a little bit of color. And this piece here also is dyed in like a slate blue. He has some gorgeous pieces displayed
I was just like,
around the fireplace and on the coffee table. The coffee table he made also. He had the wrought iron made by another artist and had a glass top put on it. So around the fireplace, you can see this big, beautiful maple platter. You see here on the mantle, different bowls. That big piece in the middle is an oak burl, and he put lots of stones inlaid in there. The stones he bought at a gem show in Colorado. Here we have the dining area, this table.
and I'm going to let this continue to run because she was being very modest. It was his wife who suggested that he start to include stone in his work. So they also collaborate as equal partners and artists. So let me just read you a little bit about how he came to become an artist. For many years, and I'm reading a statement from him from the exhibition catalog. For many years, I ran my own landscaping and tree removal business. During this time, I was exposed to many different species of wood and began to love and respect what nature had created. I wanted to find a way to preserve this beauty. When in 1998, I visited a wood turners convention, I found exactly what I needed to do. I found my calling. From there, I embarked on my journey to teach myself to master this craft through observation, trial and error, and sheer will. In my studio is where you will find me on most days. It's where I feel most at home. I examine each log and determine where to cut with my chainsaw to be able to cut each piece strategically, to make sure as little as possible is wasted of the most interesting areas in the log. As the raw pieces are cut, I mount it to the lathe and start the turning process. Each piece takes on average a year to dry under carefully monitored conditions. There he is out in his wood stack outside. Some require humidity, some do not. Some require warmth, depending on the wood species. Each piece is then sanded to a very high 1200 grit and finished with natural oils only. A lot of time and effort is spent on making sure the finished piece is not only pleasing to the eye, but also feels very soft and smooth. A pleasure to all the senses is the ultimate goal. And this wonderful video excerpt shows you the process from the very beginning to the end. And I'm just going to try to see if you can see within the area where he's got all this wood piled up in all these pieces. And you can see the powdered turquoise, I believe it is, that she's included in some of the pieces. And then his work to create the pieces. And I hate that we don't have enough time, but. And one of the things that I know for sure, okay, great, is that as we look at the documentation of the pieces, did I do it again? God, I forget what I'm learning. Is that you're out of the context of community. Because the way that craft artists very often are shown is working alone, when in fact, there's a great sense of community throughout the stages of the work. Okay, I know I don't have enough time for this because two incredible things happened to me this year when talking about community and this whole Affrilachian movement. Actually, I think I have them in reverse. The first thing that I did was to attend an important event at the John C. Campbell Folk School. So let me go in reverse. I didn't put them in the right order. And it was called, it came out of the African American Craft Initiative. The lead curator is Dr. Diana, who's a force of nature. But again, you can just fill in the blanks of what I was going to say at length. She began the African American Craft Initiative at the Smithsonian. Enough said. She's no longer there. But out of that work, and it's close to 8 years, I believe, maybe 10 even, a wonderful project called Bridging and Bonding was forged between the African American Craft Alliance, as it's become, John C. Campbell Folk School, and the Folk Education Association of America. That's where I got to come in. And they just had a culminating gathering that was a long weekend where after 15 some odd years of curating other people's work, I got a chance to get back into the studio as an artist after teaching and curating. So there were activities, classes at John C. Campbell Folk School, presentations, as well as a community event at the Texana Community Center. And so there we are, and there I am working on my handmade book that I also left with my laptop in my house, but you can see me in the studio. Some people are seeing me in the studio for the first time. And part of the, I have my MFA, but I'm so proud of this little certificate. Certificate of Achievement awarded as a student of book arts, April 16th through the 19th, because this is our class in front of the book arts building. But the assignment was to bring in 2 personal items that related to our history. And so I made color copies of color photographs, family heirlooms of photographs to create this book. And there I am. And you don't see you see our group with some of the other artists that came down from the DC and Maryland area that had been practicing craft artists through the original Smithsonian project, and they decided to focus their attention on Appalachia, to not go to DC and have their gathering, but to think about ways that they could create a larger sense of community outside of the community that they'd already created throughout the 1970s and 80s. Most of these artists are in their 70s, just to let you know. There I am on the far right, and then local artist Ann Woodford there from Murphy, Texana community, there in the center. And that's the book arts display. And we created from beginning to end a accordion style book in 2 days. It's amazing, the work that we did. Because I'll talk a little bit more about what the goal is, but it's to connect all these disparate places, because what we talk about, 13 states in Appalachia, including, went all the way up to upstate New York, all the way over to Mississippi. And another, see, you're already seeing what I'm going to show you. Another thing that happened soon after without any coordination was the Biscuits and Banjos Festival. Did anybody go to that? I did. It was so cool. Yeah, you were there. Again, collaboration and also interdisciplinary. The only thing that Biscuits and Banjos was missing was visual art in a significant way. So that's really, I think you're following me without me having to go in a linear pattern, are the things that we need to do is to be intentional. Now, I know intentional community means a certain thing, so that's why I took it out of my title, but we have to be intentional about creating community. We have to think about who we want to align with. It's great that, like I said, that G's Ben quilts can be shown right next to a Mondrian painting. That had to happen. At the same time, it also needs to be able to be brought back into the realm of being able to have call dances and storytelling and other kinds of things that can really resonate with the original meaning of the work. And as much as possible in those communities or closely adjacent to those communities where the work was made, if you follow me. And Biscuits and Banjos did that by aligning itself to the word Affrilachian, by connecting back to the continent and not just thinking of Black Appalachians, but thinking about the African roots. So this intentionality, I think, really has to be something that resonates beyond the usual thing of saying, yes, there are Black people in Appalachia. We know that. Yes, the banjo has African roots. Okay, but what does that mean to a 15-year-old in Pittsburgh? That's the thing. That's where we are, I feel, even as we struggle with other challenges. So that's not going to work. I'm not going to hit it. It's probably going to. Let me see what it's going to do first. Let me see. No. Oh shoot. Maybe no. No. Okay, you can kind of see. You can kind of see. But basically, downtown Durham was a takeover in, I think, 6 different venues, up to 40 different performers and panels. Even Michael Twitty is talking about foodways. during the event. There he is. Okay. All right. Up.
Are they gonna do that again?
It's supposed to be annual. And the big challenge now is they want to do a corporate sponsor or not. But I'm going to make the joke that I was going to make. I'm glad that they did biscuits and banjos instead of moonshine and music. Because again, this intentionality. Because moonshine and music would have been for the fraternity and sorority crowd. And this resonates more when we talk about literally making a biscuit is really about your grandma or your grandpa. Making a skillet of cornbread is not jiffy bread. It's the time and attention that it takes. But yeah, it was also the 20th anniversary of the creation of the Carolina Chocolate Drops, and I'm sure all of you know that story. And that was my opportunity to meet them for the first time of many times. One of the iterations, this time Justin wasn't with the group anymore, and it was at the first symposium on Affrilachian at the University of Kentucky that was convened by the Appalachian poets who created the word. And so I got a chance to meet back again with my dear friends, Don Flemons and his wife, Vania, and Justin, and Rhiannon, along with Reese Palmer, who does Color Me Country, look it up, and I can't remember the woman that wrote the book on Black country, Allison, not Krauss, but yeah, so that was one of the things. But she actually, the woman on the far left, had been a writer for many people like Glenn Campbell and others, but really did not get to burst on the scene and sort of claim her pioneering status until Beyonce dropped that album, Cowboy Carter. So, strategic collaborations. There will be another Biscuits and Banjos Festival. There will be something beyond bridging and bonding collaboration, because there is talk about going, after all these, meetings and focus groups, offered art residencies and exchanges, a multi-faceted approach to grounding participant observation, into building groups and networks among communities, and to have exhibitions that are interdisciplinary the way that I mentioned earlier. So the Folk Education Alliance has agreed to continue discussions, and I think the John C. Campbell Folk School will continue to be a partner in this effort. All right, so I had to have a period to this. 2026 is a banner year for Black Appalachian, Affrilachian, African American touchstones. It is the 100th anniversary of ASALH, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, founded by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. As I said, he's architect of Black history and the son of Appalachia. Student, actually, I think he actually taught at Berea as well. 50th anniversary of the celebration of Black History Month, which became a national proclamation issued by President Jimmy Carter during the nation's bicentennial year. It's the 35th anniversary of the Affrilachian Poets, the oldest continually running predominantly African American writing group that coined the word, and 15th anniversary of the Affrilachian Artist Project. I just can't catch a break. I feel like it's my cat's trying to claw at me or something. But so yeah, this is what I decided to end on while I was sitting there watching the chair maker The specificity of the Affrilachian movement is simply a reminder about the importance of community, because ultimately we are in this together. And we know that people's experiences don't always need to, or rarely do they need to be morphed, but we can listen and learn. We can find common ground. We can collaborate together. So, thank you for your time, for your patience. I hope I get to come back with better technology on my end, not you. But this was a wonderful experience for me. And I don't know if I have any questions, but thank you. Thank you. And let's think about the efforts of artist, educator, curator, friend, mentor, Sammy Lewis Nicely on Thursday of this week. Thank you.